My 2001 Z06 Corvette. Once upon a time, a couple years ago, I was doing a track event at Putnam Park, west of Indy, road course kind of deal, and got an over temperature warning on the transmission. So after that, I purchased a Doug Rippie Motorsports, or DRM, transmission cooler. Transmission on this is, of course, up in the back end, called a transaxle. But basically, the kit from DRM gives you a heat exchanger. Some people might call it a radiator. It's really not, but it goes basically behind this brake cooling duct here. You can't really see it through the mesh, but there's a heat exchanger there, and then electronic pump back up underneath this shroud. So what it does, the pump brings the transmission fluid from the transaxle in the back, routes it through this heat exchanger, which is exposed to the airflow, so it basically cools off the fluid, and then it's pumped back into the transmission. Okay, here we are inside the car. I wanted something that would be out of sight when I wasn't using it, because it's just for the track. So basically what I did, I took the ashtray out, and I just got a piece of spare plastic I had and cut it just to the right size. And then here's my illuminated switch. Ignition's not on, all that stuff, but that's it right there. So close that. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, here we are up under the hood, battery compartment. See my nice Optima red top. Let's see here. Here's the relay that I installed. I just mounted it to the sidewall in this battery compartment here. And the conductor's coming off the bottom. Have them zip tied, have them taped in place. Everything stays nice and neat. And I found a hole for my conductors to go through the firewall, running back to the switch inside the cabin, and then also back to the pump in the back. So, relay mounted real nice right there. For the 12 volt DC I needed to run the coil side of that relay, it's not much power, so I just got one of these add a circuit gizmos where it basically allows you to have 12 volt DC right out of here, keep the original size fuse for that fuse number 19. You just pop that in there. And then, again, this is my conductor that runs into the switch in the cockpit that then fires the coil side of this relay. And then right off the battery itself, I have this conductor which gives me my 12 volt power through the contact of this relay to actually turn the motor on in the back. Pretty nice, neat little installation. Survived many a track day. And it's worked out really well. Okay, here's basically how I put the electrical system together for my DRM transmission cooler. Here's the basic car, back end. Back here, you basically have the motor for the pump. The negative just goes to the chassis ground. I got a quick disconnect here, and then I ran a positive conductor all the way up here to the battery compartment area. This is basically the battery. This is the fuse holder box where I use one of those little add a circuit things to come off one of the fuses and provide 12 volt DC. In the cabin of the car, I put in an illuminated rocker switch, and it's illuminated when you turn it on. Not that you really need it because the pump's so loud, there's no question whether or not it's on, but it looks kind of nice. And then I installed a relay up here such that the motor was basically being turned on by the contact side of the relays and not directly off the switch itself, since when you start up a motor, especially a pump motor like that, you're going to have a pretty good amount of current going through there, and I wanted a relay contact to be switching that on and off. Here is the power distribution drawing schematic. for my tranny cooler. Let's start here. The motor for the pump, grounded to the chassis, positive conductor comes up here, goes through a replaceable 15 amp fuse, comes into the normally open contact on the relay module that I installed. The numbers here on this schematic just talk about, for the particular make and model relay that I purchased, what the terminals are on their schematic. This is the coil side. The battery basically here is going to power the pump whenever this contact closes. I got one of those add-a-fuse, add-a-circuit things, whatever they call it, where I went to fuse 19 up there by the battery compartment. You can maintain the original fuse and then have another fuse to provide 12 volt DC, and that's what this is over here. So this new fuse, I think I have it fused at 3 amps, something like that. Anyway, this 12 volt DC, pretty low amperage, comes up through here. Here's the rocker switch I have in the cabin of the car, and it comes through the contact side here. This is just to give power to the illuminated portion of it, the little LED or light bulb or whatever it is in there that makes it glow once you turn it on. So you flip the toggle switch or the rocker switch there, it closes that contact, gives you this 12 volt DC, comes up, energizes the coil of the relay module, which then closes this contact. And like I said, the power from the positive terminal, the battery, can flow down through this way, and presto, your pump's on. So the biggest thing this does is it switches through this contact. It's not actually turning it on. The full load amps of the motor is not going through the switch. It's actually going through the contact side of this relay. Just safer that way. Okay, here's a little different way to look at it. As I was working out the details of getting it all wired up correctly out of the motor, I ran a black wire to chassis ground for the negative. I came up through here. I've got a quick disconnect should I have to replace the pump motor at some time. Male connector coming off here, female connector, and that's all taped down. Then I come up to this fuse holder up here where I have my 15 amp fuse. Again, this is you can disconnect this. This is a crimped connection that I made, and then here's the kind of a physical representation of the bottom of the relay. These terminal numbers referenced on the previous drawing. So this comes up, goes to 87. This one here just goes off to chassis ground. The battery connection off the positive comes up into here, and then this fuse number 19, the add a circuit deal, is basically ignition 12 volt DC. Brought that into here, and this is where everything just plugs into the switch that's up in the cabin of the car, and this all comes in here. So that's more of a physical and electrical layout of the whole situation. One other thing about my schematic here is that I've shown in these ballooned areas 1, 2, and 3 the wires, the individual conductors that have to run through the firewall. One comes clear from the pump motor in the back all the way up to the relay area that I have up near the battery compartment, and then the other 2 come from the switch that's in the cabin, in the ashtray, basically the illuminated switch. 2 individual conductors that go from that switch into again, that area where I have the relay mounted. My battery needs a little charging, huh? The old boy's been sitting. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's that loud. Like I said, I wouldn't really have needed the illuminated switch because there's no trouble knowing the dang thing's on. Works well though. Pretty pleased.